So you have done through the years a lot of different stuff, right?
Beyond, yeah.
Like you do, if you've had some kind of in between phases on this build you've been working on. You've been going and working on chimneys, right? That's one thing.
Yeah, we've been trying to supplement it, right? Because right now we're not really getting paid to do it.
Yeah.
So I do a lot of subcontracting through like Beck's Home and Heating.
Oh, cool. Nice.
Plus I have my own business anyway, but I primarily do all their chimney installs for wood stoves, fireplaces, stuff like that.
Cool.
Ryan's a really good guy. He's kind of like a bit of a mentor to me. To
Oh,
be
nice.
honest
Ryan
with you.
Becca is nice.
Yeah, he's not that much older than me, but he's
No.
he's probably one of the most down to earth, like honest people that I know. Like
Really?
you always know exactly where you stand with that guy.
That's good. Yeah, I've known Ryan for a long time and like Ryan's a drummer too, right?
Yeah, he is. Yeah,
and so I remember him through the years, and I only bump into him every once in a while now, but that's cool.
He's got his new house that he built. Because his son's a really good bass player. He built.
How old's his son?
I guess he'd be grade 10 or 11, so he'd be around that 15, 16 years old.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So he was always in a band or whatever, and then Ryan was kind of roadieing him around to all the different gigs and stuff when they were younger. They were playing and stuff. So I don't know if he's still doing that or not. That's Xavier is his name.
Xavier. Oh, cool. Xavier.
Yeah, but upstairs he's got the room. He's got his drum set up and all that sort of stuff.
Oh yeah. Ryan showed me a picture of that.
Yeah.
It looks like a cool spot. I haven't been in it yet, but I mean to at some point.
Yeah, it's wicked.
That's cool. And Ryan's wife does interior design.
Design and stuff, but she's another person that I look up to a lot. Like I don't think a lot of people give women credit in the trades. That woman knows as much or more about the trades than any man I've ever met.
Really?
She just understands how things go together, heating systems, ventilation. And the best part about her is she can marry all those things together. She can take the elegance of the design plus the actual practicality of where the heat pump should go or where the ventilation system should go, and then tie it all together in a really pretty or aesthetically pleasing way.
Oh, dude, that whole extra layer on top. That's something I would have a hard time with. I often, like, when I'm helping people consult on what to do with their house, there's like a lot of standard advice that I'm really good at giving. Mm-hmm. But when it comes down to the nuance of color choices and things like that, other than kind of like, okay, let's keep it pretty neutral. That's kind of good advice as a realtor. I got to bring someone in for that.
Yeah, it's interesting. She's really good at that sort of stuff. When I first started working with her, I struggled a little bit because she's like an asymmetrical person. She doesn't believe that things need to be equal and balanced on both sides. Where I'm a very symmetrical person doing like my bricklaying and stone masonry and stuff, where both sides had to be completely balanced or it looked weird.
Yes.
So being able to do some interesting designs with her kind of got me out of my comfort zone, which made me kind of look outside the box sometimes, that it didn't always have to be cut and dry. A plus B equals C. It can be, D plus E equals A, right?
Right. And I remember because you and I talked about this book called A Pattern Language.
Yeah.
That had a big impact on you. And I recall you mentioning a couple things from it, but one of the things in terms of design is that every seat should be different, right?
Yeah. Like the interesting part about that pattern language was, in the book, it just said when you bring people together in gathering, the book's primarily about movement, and it starts off as us as cave dwellers or villages, and then moving into metropolises, but then also talks about how people react and move around communities and stuff, kind of like ants, like seeing the paths and where roads go. But the thing that it said that in a house should be certain things, but it should be mostly welcoming and open, and to generate the best conversation out of people is you should have a lot of different types of furniture in your house. Like around your kitchen table, maybe you should have a bench or a comfy chair, or maybe you should have a big lounger, because like my dad, he wants to be relaxed. He shows in, he wants to sit down in a recliner and put his feet back. Those are the best conversations I have with him. But if he's sitting in an old wooden chair that you'd find in any kitchen on Prince Edward Island, he's stiff and uncomfortable, and he doesn't really interact.
Right.
So by having people in different chairs or different atmospheres, you can get the best conversation out of them.
Right. Okay. So cool. So if you have a bunch of different options, you have company.
Yeah.
And then someone can be like gravitate towards the thing that speaks to them.
Yep.
And also just kind of vibe wise, that feels good.
Yeah, I think so too. Because like if I go into somebody's place, like I like either standing up in the kitchen, talking with people.
Classic Islander.
Classic Islander. Or sitting at a bar top, like at a stool or something like that. But then if I'm going to my in-laws, for instance, they got one really comfy chair that I have to kind of sit in before her dad sits in, because the rest of the furniture I don't find comfortable, and I don't want to be in it.
A race to that chair.
You race to that chair.
Oh,
Yeah.
nice. Any other things like, I remember you saying that a pattern language had a big impact on you, and then you read it. I downloaded the audiobook. I started listening to it, but it's pretty long.
It is. It's a long book. It's like an insert, or that book's like a particular note of like 3 different types of writings, I guess. I don't know much about literature and stuff like that. I've read Fine Home Building my whole life. The only other book I think I've read was like The Outsiders.
Oh, right. Yeah. Junior high.
Junior high, right?
Oh, yeah, right.
But the pattern language, John Russo, he's another person that found me, I guess you would say. I did carpentry in high school.
Yep.
And Sandy Monroe, who originally was teaching it, he was a big influence too. He kind of made it comfortable to be in the classroom setting, because I didn't really fit in to like English class or math class or anything like that. I was good at math, but I didn't get some of that sort of stuff. But when they explained that sort of stuff to me, it was okay. But anyway, I'm kind of going off on a tangent here. But like John came in to fill in for Sandy Monroe. And in grade 11, like the last half of the semester, because his wife was sick, and John came in to fill in for the last part of grade 11 and first part of grade 12. John actually hired me that summer because he liked my work ethic in school. So my first job in the construction trade, real official one, was with John Russo, and I was a laborer mixing and carrying bricks. There was a place on like Riverside Drive in Montague, this friend of John's who the side of the house was rotten. John dropped me off there one day with him with a bunch of tools, and he said, we got to tear this wall down and fix it. So I kind of got left there by myself with this guy, Joe, I think was his name. But it was a long time ago, and him and I ripped the whole wall apart. It was all filled with this dry rot. First time I've ever experienced anything like that. But I called John, made a few questions. John left me with a bag phone that you plugged into your cigarette adapter, right, so you could call him. It was wild, but we muddled my way through it, and it worked out okay.
Was it been like 2001?
2000, yeah, that would have been 2000, because I graduated in 2001.
Yeah. Oh, so this was after grade 11.
Yeah, grade 11.
Oh, nice. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
that's a cool grade 11 song.
Yeah. And
whoa, that's a lot of responsibility too.
It was, but I never really thought about it as responsibility. I just enjoyed it, but John gave me that book, and
a pattern language
to read, because he said, I think you'd understand this, because he gave it to me when I was actually getting ready to build my own house. I guess that would have been 2008. He would have gave that to me kind of as a Christmas present. John was always cool, as like John bought me my first subscription to Fine Home Building. And John gave me that pattern language book because I was building a house, and he said, you should understand it. Like, you should see this, because that pattern language book, it was interesting. I guess different people read it and interpret things differently, but it talked about like the second floor windows should be higher than the first floor windows. It talked about, every house should have a fire. It shouldn't be an exception, because it's warmth, and it's something else to gather around. But
that's a cool one.
Yeah, that, like, the fire thing is good, right?
So, I mean, these days everybody's going heat pumps, and then maybe convection heaters in bedrooms and bathrooms, that kind of thing.
That sort of thing, yeah.
And then
a lot of propane fireplaces. Yeah.
And then you can do an outdoor, like a fire pit would count, right?
Yeah, outdoor fire pit would count. Like, we always had, we have a furnace in our house where we live. Like, it was originally a oil furnace. We went to a wood furnace. Then we finally put in a pellet furnace. But we built this outdoor area. So we have an outdoor propane fire table where we sit and we gather all summer, even winter. We screen it in. We have my wood fired oven there, so I can actually throw real wood in it, because there's nothing more appealing than the snap and the crackle of a wood fire. Like, it's just something soothing and warming about it, especially when you get the right light, like a dimly lit place with the fire that kind of like sends a glow on people's face and stuff. Like,
totally.
Like, it's just, I guess it's kind of romantic to a certain extent, but it's just, it's just fun.
That's cool.
And people just love to gather around that sort of stuff.
Yeah. What's it like right now, building on the land that you grew up, your family farming?
It's interesting. I never thought it would be building lots. I guess when I was young, there's a house there my grandparents grew up in, and there was a second floor window, and I could always climb out through that window, and I'd sit there, and I'd just, take it in. There was one particular old crooked tree down there that you used to see that was like completely wind blown off sideways, and you wonder how it could even grow that way, but it
Mm.
was kind of cool. I go up there when I'd be upset or just, feeling lost and
You're
just,
sitting on the roof?
yeah, just sitting on the roof. Yeah. That stuff never really ever bothered me.
That's
So,
cool. So that's
yeah.
the same view.
Yeah, same view. Yeah, and I built the house just in front. My parents gave me the original building lot where I built my first house. There was a mini home there. We moved it, gave it to my uncle who didn't have a house at the time. So we moved it to his lot, and I built it in there. And then I was able to put in this large patio window, or a piano style window. So it's like 7 feet long. It's 2 feet tall, really narrow, right at the top of the wall. So when you're standing actually in the kitchen, you can see that view that I always looked at when I was a kid.
Mm.
And it was always changing. It was just, to me, it was like artwork, because like you had your different seasons. You had the cow pasture, then you had the beans or the corn or the vegetables growing in the backyard.
So you did a variety?
Yeah, mixed farm. My dad had a little bit of everything. Like there's been my grandfather Philip. He had the original farm there, so they did a lot of pumpkins, a lot of corn and stuff. Like when we were young, I bet you the garden that my dad had to be about 3 to 5 acres, something like that. A lot of corn, a lot of stuff. We used to peddle it all over the place. Like I remember being dropped off when I was 10 years old at Roddy McKenzie's old garage in Main Street, and I would sell vegetables, and my grandfather would show up. This is summertime when school's over, right?
Yeah.
And my grandfather would stop in and make sure no one took me. Like there's probably laws against that now, but there were always somebody around and stuff,
Oh,
12,
yeah.
12 years
Oh, I
old and
think
stuff
that's
like
great.
that. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But we did that sort of stuff, and then we used to sell some produce and stuff to like Sobeys and stuff.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad being upset at one point because we used to sell a lot of carrots and corn there and stuff,
Mm.
but we had to stop selling the carrots and stuff because they were crooked, and they
Right.
only wanted straight carrots.
Right.
So it's hard to do.
You're right.
It doesn't taste any different, but it's just
Yeah.
more aesthetically pleasing to the eyes. Right?
Yeah, maybe fit in the display more evenly.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know. I guess they're going for that Roger Rabbit or Bugs Bunny perfect carrot. What's
Yeah,
up,
you
Doc?
don't see a lot of angular carrots at the grocery store, but if you grow carrots,
Yeah.
you do.
That's probably why I'm so crooked. When it comes to certain things, because I ate so many crooked carrots. Maybe that's the problem. I don't know.
Oh man. Yeah, so looking at that build that you're doing right now,
Yeah.
like when we were talking about this, you had, yeah, because I remember you called me and it was like, is this the same Shane MacDonald from high school? Because I wasn't 100% sure.
Yeah.
I'm like, I think it probably is,
Yeah.
but it's been a while. And I remember bumping into you and meeting you at Lucky Bean in Montague and you showing in. It's like, it is Shane, but it's different Shane.
Yeah.
It's evolved Shane.
Yeah.
And all these years later. And then we sat down and like you started talking about like why you wanted to be doing this, why you wanted to be building this type of house,
Yep.
why you wanted to make it really efficient. Just a lot of thought has gone into this. Like what kind of has been the thrust for you in terms of, say, for one, building this type of house that you're doing on Lily Lane.
Mm-hmm.
But then, yeah, just talk about the why for all this a little bit, because it's yeah.
The why, I guess. I just see, I go into a lot of houses, new builds, constructions, all over Atlantic Canada and stuff, just with my career and stuff, chimneys, fireplaces, masonry, HVAC, I've kind of done a little bit of everything. And I just was never totally satisfied with what I seen. And I always hated how important parts of the house were always an afterthought.
Mm-hmm.
In my view of what important things were. Like most people are more concerned about getting like a granite countertop or the full walk-in shower with the giant soaker tub and stuff. Yes, those things are cool, they're aesthetically pleasing and stuff, but they're things that doesn't cost you a lot of money a month to have.
Right.
So they'd rather spend $6,000 or $7,000 on the granite countertop than put in an efficient heating system.
Right.
So you'd see this $30,000 kitchen and then you'd see a $99 low baseboard electric heater
Right.
in the corner that's just totally inefficient, and placed poorly, or and then some people want to, like, oh, let's put it in the corner more, it should be under the window, they put it in the corner more because they want to put a couch there, or
Right.
the electric heater's there and then the furniture goes in after the fact, and then the heater's in behind so it's not heating the room, and then people are sitting there with blankets because they're cold.
Right.
And I guess the thing that annoyed me about that was that the thing that keeps you warm and cool was always an afterthought, and it was always dictated by whoever you like the most. If you liked your plumber the most, chances are you're putting in some sort of like radiant heat or baseboard radiation or something like
Right.
that. If you preferred the electrician a little bit more, it was probably electric rads or electric boiler for in-floor heat, or electric, like a heat pump,
Yeah.
for instance and stuff. Or maybe the builder had a personal preference of what they wanted to heat the house with. Like,
Hmm.
people choose a plan and then they kind of figure it out as they go.
Hmm.
I wanted to kind of go about it the opposite way. I want to kind of figure out what my goals were for the build. I really wanted to be able to, the number one goal of this whole house was to build something that was affordable to build
Hmm.
and affordable to live in.
Hmm.
And I don't think you can have the affordable to build without the affordable to live in. And
Hmm.
I used my brother's house as an example. He bought a modular home, a mini home,
Hmm.
put it on a lot, and first year his pipes froze, and his electricity bill was like $750 a month.
Right.
So people don't really calculate that sort of stuff into it. I want this whole house to be $200 a month in the wintertime to heat, cool, provide all your electricity. Like, that's
Hmm.
my goal. Maybe the 200's a little bit far fetched, but I don't think it is. I built a house for a really good friend of mine, Andrew. He he wanted another builder to do it, but just with timing and COVID and all that sort of stuff, a couple of those builders got booked up and he didn't do it. So he asked if I would take it on, and he bought into this energy efficiency thing early on.
Hmm.
And we were able to take a 5,000 square foot house and accomplish $200 a month for all his utilities, electricity, and heat in the wintertime.
$200 a month for 5,000 square
Yeah,
foot.
270, 279, or 283, I guess, was the largest
The
number he
largest
had.
ever for a 5,000 square foot
Yeah,
house.
yeah.
And that is not normal.
That's not normal. No, definitely not. That was pretty high end and stuff, like ICF, insulated concrete forms right to the rafters,
Oh, okay.
triple pane, Marvin windows, R65, R70 in the attic.
So
Uh,
how did you accomplish that with blown in?
yeah, we use cellulose.
Yeah.
A lot of people go for. It's funny. I had a conversation with uh, the guy that owns Northwest Oklahoma Hardware, Chris Biot.
Crispy hot, right?
Yeah, he's a great fella. We had a conversation the other day because we were asking about different building products and stuff,
Hmm.
and I did an order, and they sent me out Typar, which is like a woven material that you put on the outside of your house. Like,
Yeah.
most people hear about Tyvek.
Yes.
So Tyvek is like the crinkly, crunchy stuff that that makes a lot of noise when you put it on, and
Hmm.
Typar is more of a stretchy compound.
Is it green?
Sometimes it can be green, yeah.
Okay.
Sometimes it's white. Yeah, but it's really stretchy. But the reason why they sell more of that is because the is because ciders don't like the noise that Tyvek makes. It
Oh.
has no variance. So, like, Tyvek's a far superior product when it comes to, waterproofing and airproofing the outside of your house. But people were making choices totally based on the decision of noise or no noise. It was for their comfort,
Whoa.
not for the customer's comfort.
Wow.
So that's stuff that I was I just wanted to build it better. There's a need for that sort of housing, I feel, because, like, when I first started off in the trades, we had these apartment building. I lived in an apartment building in town, lived in a duplex in Charlottetown and stuff like that. But, like, I wanted to have some place to have and work in a workshop when I was, on the weekends, but I couldn't do that. I didn't have the space to do that.
Hmm.
And I feel that on PEI, everybody has to have a little bit of a side hustle to be
Hmm.
able to, go on that vacation they want, or do whatever. So I guess that's the goal of the affordable to build, affordable to live in house.
I mean, 700 versus 200, that's $500. I mean, I guess that would be a peak month, but even if over the year, that's a, you know, $300 average difference would it be, or maybe even more.
Well, if you say January, February, March, generally our coldest months on the island.
Yeah.
Hasn't been that bad lately, but it's only a matter of time.
Yeah.
But if you're paying 750, say 700 a month, that's that's $2,100 versus $600.
Oh yeah.
That's considerable when you add all the months up.
Yeah, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And so I kind of ran the numbers out of curiosity. So a $200 savings would be roughly the equivalent of, just in terms of the mortgage, which is a temporary thing, but at kind of current mortgage rates, you'd be looking at, $35,000, and say if the mortgage was $35,000 less, that's what you'd need to do to save that $200.
Yeah.
And so, but this is for the life of the build. You get it at a bet, like just your cost of living there is way different. So you can imagine that, like, even just like, yeah, if you have a place and you're saving $500, it's like,
that's a kid's sport. That's a kid's, tuition to day camp for the summer when there's no school.
And instead of living in a mini home,
yeah,
you're living in a really nice single family home, fully detached on an almost acre lot with a garage.
With a garage.
Yeah.
It's crazy, right? Like,
and it costs like
$359. That's what we're trying to sell it for, right?
Yeah.
So it's just trying to find that balance. Like, I've never been a person that ever really did anything for money. It's mostly been for love of the building and taking the pride in what I do and how I build, or doing anything at that matter. But I don't take praise very nicely either. I don't like compliments and stuff like that. I just want people to, when I walk away, I just want to be happy with it. And I want them to know that they're going to enjoy it for years to come, and they don't have to worry about that sort of stuff. Right. Because I guess it was a bit of a learning curve for us too, because I'm doing things that we never did before. It seems like there's a lot more paperwork. Like, we're offering a home warranty on that piece of property too, like 10 years and stuff like that. So I feel when you do that, you really have to be conscious about how you're building it, navigating the development permits, the building permits, even the inspections from the home warranty guys, and two, from the province for your building and stuff. It's managing the expectations of minimum code, is which the province, wants you, is the standard that they start with. But as soon as you start going over and above the minimum code, people don't quite understand what you're trying to accomplish.
Right.
So then you run into these hiccups where you're constantly trying to tell them why you're doing it. But when that person doesn't understand it, it makes it really challenging.
Right. So it looks a little bit different because you're investing more time and energy, or you're changing it to make it more than the minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's funny, on your building permit at the bottom, I noticed it this time, but it says like they're not responsible for any changes that you might have to make based on what they tell you. So they're not liable if they want. So if I build something that's code ×2 or code ×3 and it doesn't fit into their box of rules for minimum code, they want me to change it back to minimum code.
Right.
But then they don't assume any liability
for
that decision, and I don't want to do that. Like,
yeah,
I've never built anything for minimum code in my life.
How's that going so far with the permitting and everything?
Development permit went pretty quick. It wasn't too bad. I guess it was about 3.5 weeks to get back to whether we could build a house on that lot.
Yeah. Doesn't seem too bad.
No, it wasn't too bad. I pretty much had all my information though, like up front. We used what's the word? I'm sorry, it lost me for a second. Draft person.
Oh yeah.
To do the set of plans up. So like, I think we went through, Oscar was ready to kill me at the end of it, I think, but we went through like 6 different versions and styles and layouts and stuff like that, just trying to maximize the space that you feel when you go into it, size of windows, even the grills in the windows. Like everything was painstakingly groomed 4 or 5 times before we actually found what it was. Plus, like, I have a good friend of mine, Luke Murmas. We're kind of partners on this.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
He has his own business, Murmas Builders, and then I have mine, and we're just collaborating on this sort of stuff because he wants to he's buying into this sort of stuff too. Like he wants to build it because I think the problem that a lot of people find in the trades that I deal with, you just kind of get tired of dealing with customers.
Yeah. Yeah.
I enjoy customers,
Yeah.
but there's some that you just, no matter what you do, you can't satisfy or be content with, right?
Well, it's also a different type of project. Like
Yeah.
it's like if you say if you were buying a car,
Yeah.
and if you say, okay, I'm going to buy one off the lot, versus if you had someone build you a custom car, like that is a very different situation. And
Yeah.
I know there's some people who specialize in custom, and you've clearly done custom before, but it's a different mindset with when you're building like this, a spec house. It's like you can say what is the most efficient, most effective way of putting this whole thing together. And then you're able to get potentially a superior product for a better price into the market.
Yep.
And if you try to, is that you mentioned this before, it's like if someone's like, oh, I don't like this finish on this thing, we need to get new, countertops or something.
Yeah.
And then you might be delayed, not just for the time of making that decision, but then for ordering that new material. And that could put you back
6-8 weeks.
Yeah.
If not more.
So that's material in terms of the impact on a lot of things.
Yeah.
One of the things people, this might be too nerdy, but just from a financial, not too nerdy, from a financial perspective that people often don't consider is the time value of money. Like if you have an investment that say makes 10% annually, then versus say 10% every 6 months, that's essentially a 10% return versus a 20% return on an annualized basis. So if you want to say effectively build something and grow something, time is a major factor in that. It's like, if you have a product that you're selling and you sell them, you're selling these widgets for, and you can sell, 10 a month, and instead you can sell 20 a month, it's, maybe over 2 months, you're still selling, 20 widgets at the 10, but, at the 20, you're over the 2 months, you're selling 40 widgets. So the time effect is massive.
It is.
And so you're able to actually deliver a potentially a better product at a better price by not having that drag.
Yeah, I guess, and that's one of the main reasons we talked about just selling a product, essentially, is what we're doing. The spec house, just selling a product. I'm not building a house for somebody. I'm actually just building a product, and hopefully people like it. They like the color. They like the kitchen finish. They like all that sort of stuff. That's the part that makes it unruly, but that's the thing that we can do. Because like for this house, 1,371 square feet, 960 of its living space, and the other's garage. We have like 8 weeks of carpentry time, like construction time, built into that for labor. And I know that doesn't relate in the real world to actual time that it takes to build the house, because you have your sub trades coming in, your plumbers, your electricians, your concrete guys, all that sort of stuff. Delays for trusses, different things like that. But that's the way it is. And building it more efficiently, 8-foot ceilings instead of 9-foot ceilings, that saves you money right there. Also, the volume of space that you have to heat and cool, that considerably reduces that as well too. Big vaulted ceiling's cool and I love it, but at the same time too, like if you take a vaulted ceiling and you're like a 9-foot wall, then you put like then you have 28 feet to the peak in a vaulted ceiling, the actual sheer volume of air that you're trying to move and heat and cool is just crazy. It just costs you X amount more. Same as if you go from wanting to heat your house, you might like it 18 degrees, I might like it 20 degrees. That's a considerable cost difference in your annual heating bill as well. Like that's what a lot of people do. But I guess the product thing is just trying to eliminate the decisions and try to have all the decisions laid out in advance.
And then each place that you make, you can learn from the previous one and infuse that with all the new stuff, as opposed to, for a custom build, you might be more just subject to what that person happens to want versus how you're refining your build and your process.
It's like we did an ICF foundation, a Fox Block foundation. It went a lot faster than we anticipated in the build time.
Yeah.
We did it in 4 days instead of 6 days,
Nice.
which was nice, which is good for us. But also the thought process of how we did the blocks and the type of braces and stuff we used, we were able to save money there. So when it was all said and done, just in materials, by using the like wooden forms that we can recycle, like wooden braces and wooden structure for holding the wall up and supporting it, we're actually recycling those in. So we're using them for top plates, for studs, for more bracing down the road and stuff. So we're able to move that stuff ahead, where most people in building like that, because they bill for those braces and stuff, plus then they'll build for all that extra braces in the next step. So instead of us, making that money twice or three times on the margin of the markup on that material, we just recycle it all the way through. And now had a conversation with Luke this morning about insulation. We're actually going to be able to upgrade from like an R19, like an R20 bat. We're going to go up to an R22 bat because we save $653, which is the cost difference of going from one R value to another R value. So in turn, now we're going from an R25 wall up to an R27 for the money that we saved, right?
So it's not going to cost more, but it's going to save the owner's money for as long as this house exists.
Yeah. So, nothing against most builders, but I'd rather put that money right back into the house that we budgeted and allowed for, and let there be a better product in the end, right?
Just little details. I don't know construction super well, but you were when you were cutting the ICF, you were doing it a little bit differently than people normally do. This may be hard to do without actually looking at it, but is that something that's explainable?
Yeah, I guess so. So ICF, it's basically, you're looking at their Lego blocks essentially, and they're just square and they stack together like Lego blocks. They have the locking teeth where they fit into the grooves and stuff. On most places, people will cut out the inside layer of that Lego block, essentially cutting it in half. And then the concrete will actually pour into just the one outside layer of 2.5-inch foam. We decided on the inside that we'd pour our concrete wall up, and then we'd bevel or cut the inside of the foam on a 30-degree angle, so that we can actually have more insulation on the inside of that slab. So we've been able to thermally break that slab, the concrete that's that could be potentially touching the outside cold, is not able to transfer it through. It breaks it twice. So just a little detail that took us like an hour and a half to do on a table saw is going to play out a lot better in the end for the overall product.
So basically ICF foundation, which is basically styrofoam with concrete poured in the middle of it. On the inner side of that, where there's the foundation poured here for the that meets up to that, and typically the temperature could potentially pass through that. But you have, rather than cut back the foam there to make room, you cut it on an angle, so that so that the cold can't get through. All the way the entire perimeter.
The whole perimeter,
of it. So that could have a material impact on cost, but also comfort.
On comfort, 100%, yeah. Because if your feet are warm, your body's generally warm. That's why a lot of people for years really liked radiant floor heating.
Yeah.
Because anything that radiant floor heating touches is warm. When you sit on a chair with radiant floor heat, that chair is warm. When you touch your table, it's warm. When you touch your countertop, it's warm. In a house that you move air around in, surfaces get cold because it doesn't absorb the heat the same way.
Yeah.
Radiant heat's the way. That's what a wood stove does. You sit beside the wood stove, it radiates out heat. It gets into your bones. It goes into the walls. It goes into the chairs. So stuff is warm that you touch. So it gives you an extra level of comfort. It's unfortunate that we're kind of losing that, because systems are the way that the way that the building science is evolving and stuff, that it's making certain systems redundant. So radiant heat's a nice way to heat your house, but it doesn't provide you any air conditioning. You can do different systems like air to water heat pumps that will do radiant in-floor heat, and then you put a couple cassettes up on the wall and you do it that way. But those systems, like, I priced it was going to be like $20,000 for a heating and cooling system for the house. Like, we're going to do conscious decision. We're going to do convect air heaters. It's a higher end radiant heater that sits a little higher on the wall, more European styled. And then we're going to do a heat pump. And so that's why we want to have the house as tight and as insulated as much as possible, because we're moving air, so we don't get those benefits of the radiant heat. But we're going to be able to do that all for a third the cost.
Right.
You know, and there's
then because of the detail that went into making it, the whole thing is just going to be a lot easier to get to a comfortable level. So if you want that warm seat, you're going to get it.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. It's all about building a level of comfort. And I guess that takes it into like, so in the living room, there's a large window. So when you walk in the front door, there's a large window there that's like 109 inches. It's basically 9 feet wide, and it's 4 feet tall. So that window we actually chose, we went with a triple pane window there. And primarily that reason is because that's the living room, and that's where you're going to be sitting around. Someone's going to be sitting on a couch with the couch up against that window, and their head's going to be where the glass is. And you're going to feel cold. So that's why we chose to go with a more expensive, better quality window there, because we're just trying to add to that level of comfort. In the bedrooms.
And when you're in and around the house, you're not necessarily kind of in a house coat. You're not necessarily all under covers or anything like that.
Exactly. Just making it more comfortable. And then like in the bedrooms and in the laundry room, different places like that, we just chose casement windows. I like casement windows instead of like single hung or double hung windows. They open out. They air seal better, they fit tighter, and you don't have to go with a triple pane window. You can go with just a double pane Energy Star window, but you have the air tightness. You don't get the draftiness. You go to pretty much any single hung or double hung window on a windy day, you can hear them whistling because the seals go. On a casement window, when it closes on itself, there's like there's a seal on the inside, a seal in the middle, and a seal on the outside. So it seals tight. You're not getting that air leakage. We just got to stop air from moving. We want to be conscious about where we allow the air to come in through our mechanical ventilation system. We don't want drafty windows, allowing the heat to change. And that's where you run into these big energy bills. We want to, keep it tight and ventilate right. That's a Steve Basic architect's motto that he lives by.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Cool. So when you're doing, this is maybe something that is actually, no, you have a bunch of heating and cooling experience because of your history. But when you're for exchanging the air, do you lose a lot of heat with that?
Well, there's a couple different ways you can, like up here, it's pretty much a HRV, heat recovery ventilating system. So essentially we're taking, how's the best way to explain it? There's a big filter in it, or a big air exchanger. So when you're bringing in the cold air from outside, it passes through this cell that mixes the warm, stale air with the cold air. So you're essentially regenerating, you're taking that heat that should be going out and passing it through the fresh cold air that comes in through.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so is there much loss?
Numbers I can't really speak to, but generally like you're not a lot. Like it's infinitesimal, especially if your house is warm and the air's like, say if it's 5 degrees outside and you're running 20 degree air over top of that. You talk about delta T and the way that it transfers that way, but they say about 10 to 12 degrees comes back.
Yeah. Cool.
So it's not cold, but it's good. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. Nice.
Because you're constantly sucking it, so you're constantly moving it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I'm gonna look at I had a couple questions here. I had actually a whole bunch of questions. It's my first time looking at the questions, which is kind of fun. I guess one area that I kind of wanted to talk about is just like, we talked a lot about the build and why you wanted to do it from kind of just wanting to make it good and efficient and that kind of thing. But from a local community perspective, I mean, you're coming out with a product that is, I mean, this is a really nice quality house, but it's not like crazy expensive and the cost of ownership, but then just like, this will be impacting the community in a way. And then also like just for local people living here, what impact do you want to have with that? Is there anything in that category that you want to talk about at all?
I kind of when I was talking about it earlier, I kind of lost track of where I was going with it. But essentially, we're trying to build. Can't say I all the time because Luke's in on this too. But we want to try to provide like workforce housing, or even possibly transitional housing for seniors moving out of their bigger, older houses to something smaller that's still close to the local community. Like it's like literally 5 minutes from Montague,
Yeah.
and there's a bus stop out by the roundabout there on the Queens Road, Union Road, Greenfield Road all meets. There's a
Yeah.
bus stop there, so like you could walk there in like what 7 minutes.
Yeah, not to distract from what we just asked you there, but that's a really interesting location just because it is kind of so close to everything.
Yeah,
It isn't, but it's not crazy developed. Like if you go just slightly towards Montague, you got the McLean's Ready Mix there, and there are houses around there,
Yep.
you know, just ribbon development down the different roads and that kind of stuff,
Mhm.
and some development cropping up here, but just strategically, just because if you're being, you know, from the edge of Montague, it's only 2 or 3 minutes, like down, like 5 minutes
Yeah.
will bring you right into, you know, Tim Hortons or whatever.
Yeah, I will.
Probably. But from that location, it's like with that distance to Montague, there isn't a shorter drive to Charlottetown. You know, maybe
really.
out towards Pools Corner or something. But
Well, it's interesting. Like, there's
do you think it's going to develop more around there? Like, what do you picture for that neighborhood, that area?
I'd like to see some more in there, but at the same time too, like Vanco Farms purchased a large group of land around there, so
Mhm.
pretty much going any farther out the way towards Charlottetown, towards Ewig that way,
Yeah.
it's probably not going to build up
Mostly
anymore.
farmland?
Mostly farmland there
Cool.
because they've invested a lot of infrastructure into like irrigation and stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
But
And if they just bought it too, land was probably identified.
yeah,
You wouldn't be able to change it easily without getting executive approval from the province.
From the province, yeah. So and the province doesn't seem to want to, which is a good thing. They don't want to give up any more farmland.
Yeah.
Trying to protect urban sprawling stuff though, like I guess that's the thing. But I guess to see for the community standpoint, I just want to provide that workforce housing or that transitional housing. Like not everybody's made to live in an apartment building.
Yeah.
And this kind of this one size fits all idea that seems to be always pushed from Ottawa to you know Eastern PEI doesn't really work here. In my opinion, and what do I know? I don't really know much about any of that stuff, but I just want to see people have the opportunity to either run a side hustle out of the garage or build a little mini barn in the back. Like I have a couple friends, they're partners, they're significant others. They have childcare is an issue in the area. It's hard to get enough. It's expensive. Two, there's not a lot of spots. So you see a lot of either. Actually, I have one friend. He stays at home and his wife works, and he keeps the kids at home, right?
Yeah.
But in his downtime and in his side, he runs a side. They make signs. He 3D prints stuff that he sells on the internet. He has a space where he can actually do something like that. You can't do that in an apartment building.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't. It's kind of there's no space for it.
Yeah.
So to actually be able to kind of kills two birds with one stone. You have two kids. One of the family members can stay home with them, but they can also still operate a business if they want to in the evenings and stuff when the other partner's home.
Yeah.
So I think we're lacking that sort of stuff, and it gives people more opportunity to make income and give them their independence.
Yeah.
Because he runs that side hustle that pays for all the kids' sports, all their vacations that they choose to do. It's their disposable income. Like that's how they do it. And then the other,
and you stack that side hustle on top of the energy savings of it being just a really efficient place.
Yeah.
Too. That's kind of
two birds with one stone.
Yeah.
I don't think he wants to, it's going to kill the efficiency if he starts mining Bitcoin in there, but
right. I think that's where it'll be going. The Victoria Cross Bitcoin mining operation.
Yeah. But
do you follow that stuff? You follow crypto or anything like that a little bit?
I like listening to it and stuff. Like I'm a podcast guy. I listen to all that stuff, like Death of Crypto, and there was CBC did a really good one on stuff, and then but Bitcoin and like your crypto wallets and all that sort of stuff. I think a lot of like with the uncertainty of what's happening in the United States, like jeepers, like a lot of people are saying we should be buying gold and silver, platinum.
It's interesting. I have mixed opinions because crypto, my thing on this is like I'm getting slightly more sold on it just because I'm learning about just over the last few years, especially since COVID, the talk of inflation and stuff like that, and the devaluation of the currency has been so central. But I think of most crypto as being kind of a speculative thing where it feels kind of like people are just wanting to buy it, hoping it'll go up so that they can later sell it for more.
Yeah.
Versus say if you invested in a business, then that business is trying to make a profit. And then as a result from that, you know, you could potentially get dividends or the value of the stock could grow as a result of that. But it's interesting because, you know, it does seem like Bitcoin, especially, it's the brand name and it is set up so that it can't be debased.
Yeah. And there's a finite amount of it. There's only so much of it. And it's interesting, like
because it's all just numbers.
It's just numbers floating in the air. But it's funny now, like down the States, you can see it. They actually have like Bitcoin ATMs.
Right.
So you can actually go in and buy just like I don't know, like how they break it up, like an eighth or a percentage of a Bitcoin, right?
Do you own Bitcoin? Did you buy any?
I didn't buy any yet. I got all tied up in this project. If this goes well, maybe I'll do it.
Well, no, we'll get the next project going. But hey, if you want to buy some Bitcoin.
There was a guy actually down in Georgetown. He did like electronic work and stuff, or he was selling land. He subdivided some land down there, and he actually had a big sign up. He says, "We'll accept Bitcoin."
Oh, cool.
So, like, I don't know who I called the number one time and I left a message, but I never heard anything back.
I wonder how hard it would be to accept Bitcoin for the purchase of something like this. I'm guessing you'd have to change it over to Canadian dollar.
Yeah, something like that. I've never looked into it, but I think it's
actually spent a lot of time looking at currency in terms of like buying real estate, which would be an interesting thing to get into. But
that would be really good. Yeah, it's fun that way. Anyway. We'll see how it all plays out, I guess.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about while we're here?
I don't know. I don't think so. Cool. I guess I should give a shout out to some of the people that have kind of sent me down the road that made me want to ask some of these other questions. Like mentors and stuff. Like I feel like a lot of people in the trades don't have a lot of good mentors and stuff. And like developing new talent and stuff coming up through. I think that's important. Because I've worked for some great contractors and I've worked for some really lousy ones, and at least I was in a part of my career where I recognize the difference. I find that young people coming out of high school or any of the trades and stuff, they get gobbled up. They go to a place and they're taught something, and they don't recognize the difference between what's good, what's bad, what's not,
or why
are we building it like this, or why are we doing it like that. So. I think it's really, I'm really happy that in my whole career so far, like I'm not even old, I'm 42 for frig's sakes, but like I've been doing it since, 2000, working in the trades of some point or ever, but all the way along, I've had really good mentors that always encourage me to ask why and to search out different and better ways to do things. And a lot of people aren't receptive to.
A lot of people aren't.
They're really closed-minded, and like it was funny. I was talking to Luke the other day about something similar to this. I'm not interested in building a house that I built, 26 years ago. I don't want to build it that way anymore because there's technologies come along. There's better ways, more thoughtful ways to build houses and stuff. And I think as a whole, as an industry, we need to move forward with that. And I'm starting to see a lot more better things like that. You had the gentleman on from that company on the island. What was it?
Josh.
Josh, yeah.
McPherson.
Yeah. He was great. Like he's buying into it. He's a young guy. He's progressive. He understands the different control layers and stuff in a house. And a lot of people don't understand that stuff. And I think the other unique thing is you should try to not. I think carpentry is kind of the gateway drug, so to speak, into the trades to kind of go that way. Because if you can measure, cut, and fit things together relatively well, you can actually take those skills and you can move them into any other trade, which is good. So having a good core base of your carpentry and stuff like that, because the electrician's drilling holes, he's marking, he's measuring, he's trying to fit things together. He needs to cut something out to make something fit. But they don't get that practical hand-on experience because they're just talking about how to run that three-way switch to turn the light off here and there. But there's no focus on the actual physical putting it together aspect of it, right? Same with, I think, like, I know so many electricians that are electricians because they worked out west, but all they ever did was bend conduit, and they can't wire that three-way switch.
Right.
So I think people need to try to help educate themselves a little bit better. Find that person that encourages you to ask the why and pushes you to always be better. And with my career so far, I was always encouraged for that. I always had a lot of string to hang myself. They always gave me a lot of rope, but I always asked for help. A lot of people are scared to ask for help too. I have my phone. I don't know how many contacts in there, but if you had a question about anything related to building of any sort, I have somebody in there that I could reach out and ask a question to, and they can give me that answer. So, networking.
And you're willing to do that for
I'm willing
another
to,
person?
I get phone calls every day about different things, whether it's wet installs like my chimneys and wood stoves and fireplaces, whether it's a carpentry question, whether it's a heat pump question, whether it's a ventilation question, plumbing and stuff. I don't really like that as much, but I have a couple really good plumbers that I can call and ask, right? It's the same, like, it's funny, like, I don't know if I should tell the story or not, but anyway, it's a funny story. It's like,
now I really want you to tell it.
but just a network and just, respecting everybody's trade, what they do. Like, I had this issue one time with one of these wax strips, and the wax got left on my shoulder, right? But I couldn't get it off. So, like, I called my friend Sonia, who's an esthetician. I said, what am I supposed to do to get this, like, wax off my back? Like, it's stuck on there, it's sticky, I'm not what I'm supposed to. She's like, why are you calling and asking me this question? I said, hey, your husband's an electrician. When I have an electrical question, I ask him. This is your wheelhouse. That's why I'm coming to you.
Yeah, right.
Right.
Yeah.
So, respect everybody's trade, because that's a trade in itself too, right? Like, it's good. Yeah.
Yeah, cool, man. There's so many more questions I could go off with this, but thank you so much, Shane MacDonald, coming on the podcast. Really appreciate you kind of putting yourself out there and having this chat. So awesome, man. Thanks.
Appreciate it. Thanks, Dave. Thank you.
Awesome. Awesome.
That was relatively painless.
Yeah.
You just kind of just start rolling, don't you?